Hi again. This is the third of three posts on the three A's: anxiety, ambivalence, and ambiguity. These were inspired by talks by the famed Jungian analyst James Hollis, who is the author of books including The Middle Passage, The Eden Project, Swamplands of the Soul, and Finding Meaning in the Second Half of Life. All of these are well worth reading. They are some of my favorite writings in the field, and I've probably given more of his books as gifts to friends than any other author. And keep in mind, that's a cognitive behavior therapist talking, and Hollis is a Jungian analyst. Some people think we should be at each other's throats. I have the deepest respect for his work and a degree of intimidation by his intellect. In one of his talks in Vancouver, Hollis talked about the three A's of mature adulthood. His focus in that presentation, I believe, was on the second half of life, which is an underexamined period of human development. But I think that the ideas apply more generally. One of the reasons that I was attracted to his concept was that it runs counter to what people are often told in the context of popular psychology, in books, presentations, and in places like YouTube. We can get lots of views and sell lots of books by saying what people want to hear. Things like, yes, you have a giant within. Though how your skin still fits, I have no idea. Or you can have it all. Though why you would want most of it, I'm not entirely sure. Many of the ideas that get promoted aren't just irrelevant filler. They can actually be destructive. An example that I dwell on here a bit, and in presentations that I do to youth and educators, is the idea of finding your passion. People are told all the time how important it is that they find their passion, as though it's sitting out there waiting to be found. Newsflash, it isn't. And we talk as though most of the things we do in life are driven by passion, or should be. They aren't. And we talk as though passion was a prerequisite for action. It isn't. People would benefit more if they were told the truth about passion, which is that you don't need it in order to get moving. It's not why most people do what they do. Passion is not what governs most career choices. And especially, passions are not discovered. They are built. If you sit on the couch waiting for your passion to arrive, you're going to be there forever. It's not coming. The three A's make three related points that run counter to what our society teaches us. Anxiety, that's something we are supposed to overcome. But it's a normal part of the human emotional repertoire. Wanting to conquer it is like trying to conquer your left thumb. It's not a disease. Leave it alone. Then there's ambivalence. Ambivalence is a part of almost every aspect of adult life. We like some things about our job, but we don't like others. We're happy with our home's location, but we don't like the layout. We're glad we had kids, but teenagers can be a pain in the butt. We're glad we didn't have kids, but it would be nice to have young people around now and then. Pop psychology suggests that you're going to get this great clarity of purpose with no pluses and minuses involved. But you won't. Adulthood and maturity involve coming to terms with that reality. So the third A is ambiguity. When we're young, we really want to figure things out. Everything seems uncertain. We don't know what's going on. We want that clarity. We want to know enough that we can find our way around without problems. It's like a video game. We start and it's not obvious what we're supposed to do or where to find things. So we get killed off. Then we have to start again and again and again. And eventually we can find our way around. We know that the sword that we're supposed to have is in the golden cabinet. And the shield, that's in the basement of the castle. And the amulet, That's in the dragon's cave, or whatever. What starts out as a complete obscure mystery gradually becomes understandable. And life is the same way. Partly. We have no clue what a resume looks like, and we gradually find out. We don't know how a business works. And then we learn. We don't know how to travel on our own. Then we work it out. We're not sure how to talk to a potential romantic prospect. And we gradually figure that out. Partly. And all of that's a good task. Figure out what you don't know and at least try to get the gist of it. It's like there are two buckets, knowledge and ambiguity. And for much of the early part of life, we're taking water out of the ambiguity bucket and putting it in the knowledge bucket. And sure enough, the level of water in the ambiguity bucket is going down a little. It's completely natural that we would think that by later on in life, we will empty that ambiguity bucket. It'll be completely dry. But you get to a certain point, maybe midlife, and you realize that the water isn't going down fast enough. You could live to 300 and that bucket is never going to be empty. If your mission is to empty it, to clear your life of all ambiguity, you've failed, and you're going to fail. You will never succeed. But it's even worse. Some of the ambiguity you thought you'd gotten out of that bucket, you didn't. There's a little hose running from the certainty bucket back into the ambiguity bucket. You thought you had relationships all figured out. And look, here's a new twist. You thought you understood yourself, but you're bigger and more diverse than you expected. You settled into a career and a life path, but lately it's not as fulfilling as you thought. You had firm, clear beliefs about politics and religion, but now they're not serving you quite so well. It's a commonplace observation that no one is as certain about the world as an 18-year-old. You get older, and it's not just your hair that's going gray. The shades of gray start creeping into everything. The old categories don't work. You decided what you think about this social issue. And experience shows you that it's more nuanced than that. Sometimes you don't have to wait long. When I went through my university training, people would say that in your bachelor's degree, you learn a long list of facts. And then in your graduate work, you learn how none of those facts is entirely true. So you wind up at the end of your graduate work knowing less than when you started. As a psychologist, I can tell you that this is completely true. It absolutely applies. People who have their bachelor's degree in psychology or less are way clearer on almost everything than I am. At parties, I'm constantly being informed about the invariant truths of psychology, the 7 states of consciousness, the difference between normality and disorder, the way that therapy works. I smile and I nod and I'm very nice, mostly. But it doesn't stop there. When you really dive deep into an area, you always want a little solid ground, some basic first principles that you can rely on. You want a firm foundation. And as time goes by, you realize that aspects of that foundation aren't all that firm after all. For example, as a psychologist, I was taught and believed that you really have to arrive at a crystal clear diagnosis of someone before you can do effective psychotherapy. But over time, I noticed that that diagnostic label wasn't telling me much. To do effective work with someone, I needed to know the specifics of a person's life, the ways that made them different and particular, not the label that groups them together with a bunch of other people. Despite what I've said, of the 3 A's, ambiguity is the one that's most tied to the second half of life. You really look in that bucket and you realize it's not emptying fast enough. It may actually be filling up. You're in an ocean of ambiguity, and your mission is not to bail it out. It's to learn to swim. You have to be able to tolerate and welcome the ambiguity and not let it paralyze you. You will never figure it all out. The farther you go, the more you realize just how big that ocean is. And you will never get clarity by sitting on the couch trying to work it out. What clarity comes, and it will be small, will come from action, from involvement, from doing things, and from listening to people who have different perspectives from our own, not blocking them out or deciding they're heretics who should be burned at the stake. In the face of anxiety, we need courage. In the face of ambivalence, we need determination. In the face of ambiguity, we need humility. And in the face of life, we need a tolerance for all three. Thanks for watching. My books, How to Be Miserable, 40 Strategies You Already Use, and How to Be Miserable in Your 20s, are available through all major booksellers.